But our main news this morning is that Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak are pledging to stay in their jobs despite being handed a fine by the police for breaking lockdown rules in Downing Street in June 2020. The Prime Minister, the Chancellor and also the Prime Minister's wife all received the fixed penalty notices for attending a birthday party for the PM in Number 10. As a result, Mr Johnson becomes the first UK serving Prime Minister to be sanctioned for breaking the law. Now, all three of them have apologised, but both the Prime Minister and Mr Sunak rejected calls to resign. In a moment, we'll speak to someone who lost their dad to COVID during lockdown and also did research with bereaved families. But first, let's speak to Maria Eagle, who is the Labour MP for Liverpool, Garston and Hale Wood. A very good morning to you.
Morning.
I'm assuming you're echoing Keir Starmer's comments that the Prime Minister and the Chancellor should resign.
They should, both of them. They've both been found to have attended illegal parties during the lockdown and then repeatedly lied about it to the country and to Parliament. It debases and undermines our democracy because our system depends on MPs holding government to account in Parliament. And when you lied to in Parliament, it completely destroys the capacity to do that. And the ministerial code is totally clear. There's an overarching duty on ministers to comply with the law. And if they don't, they're expected to offer their resignation. So it's totally clear. The position is totally clear. They should both go, both of them. They've lied. They've broken the law. And, the tawdry parade of these Jobsworth ministers coming on Twitter saying that they should stay and it's all very minor makes things worse. This isn't minor. It's a major and very serious breach. And our system requires them to go, and they should go.
Well, his argument, the Prime Minister's argument, that is that he stood in a room for 10 minutes with people that he works with on a daily basis and in some cases lives with. Given what's going on in the world right now, isn't it time to move on?
No, this is a repeated breach of laws that he himself made, that everybody else was being expected to meet for good public health reasons. There are many bereaved people in this country who stuck by those laws, whose pain and trauma is now being increased and made worse by the way in which this Prime Minister, who is known for lying repeatedly, is treating them and treating the country. If they get away with this, it completely debases and undermines our democracy. The ministerial code and the law and Parliament require them to go. They need to go, and they need to go soon.
What about the argument that really now is not the time to be changing a Prime Minister? Bear in mind all that's going on in the Ukraine. Does that wash with you?
No, because this idea, it's any excuse from these people. If you look from the start, it's been one excuse after another. Get through the next day, lie about that, get through the next week, then we'll come up with a different excuse. They're taking the British people for fools, and it won't wash. And if the Tory MPs who have the power to remove this Prime Minister don't do it, then it will fall to the electorate at whatever elections are coming up. The first one is in May, not in Liverpool, but in other bits of the region. There's an election in May. And they should punish these lawbreakers. The country cannot be led by liars and lawbreakers at any time. And once they're found out, they have to resign. They've both got to go, and they've got to go soon.
There's been talk of a vote of no confidence in the past among the 1922 committee. Do you have much confidence that a vote like that could be brought and go through?
Well, the trouble is that the Tory party appears to be complicit in supporting these lawbreakers. It was quite clear yesterday from some of the things that ministers and Tory backbenchers were saying that they're willing to put up with law breaking as long as it's by their own side. That is a dangerous day for democracy when that happens. I think the Tory backbench and the Tory MPs should find their backbone and realise that truth matters more, that the rule of law and the ministerial code matter more than immediate party political advantage and sucking up to a a deeply flawed leader like the Prime Minister is, who's a proven liar and a lawbreaker. The country cannot be led by liars and lawbreakers who are unwilling to take the consequence of their lawbreaking. And if Tory MPs don't realise that, if they don't take action and remove this Prime Minister and this Chancellor and get new leadership, if they don't do that, then the people of this country, when they get a chance at elections, will do it for them. And they will all suffer too. So they need to realise that truth, that law matters more than what they see as their immediate political advantage. They've got to grow some, let's say, they've got to grow some courage.
Right. Yes. Thank you for being careful there. In terms of Parliament being recalled, because of course Parliament's on Easter recess at the moment, is that likely to happen? Should it happen?
It should happen, but it has to be recalled by the government, and so it's unlikely to happen in my view. But it should happen. However, if it doesn't, then Parliament is back next Tuesday, and I'm absolutely certain that that this will be a big issue when Parliament is finally meeting again. And we're not totally clear, are we, that this is the last fine that the Prime Minister is going to get?
Are you? You're not worried that people will have moved on by then? You don't?
No,
think...
I'm not worried. I'm not worried that people will move on, because I think that this is absolutely a fundamental requirement of our democracy. You cannot get away with lying to Parliament. We cannot be led by liars and lawbreakers. It won't last for long. To the extent that these people, the Tory MPs, seek to make this the norm, they must fail. And it'll be to the electorate in the end, for them, the electorate, to decide that this isn't the way in which we want our country to be governed. And I have every confidence that they will show that very clearly.
And just to finish, you mentioned there about the local elections. At the moment, a lot of Conservatives seem to be still supporting Boris Johnson. Does that change if they face a backlash at the ballot box?
I think it does. I think if they start to see that the public and the electorate will not put up with this behaviour. And there was a poll last night that showed that 75% of those asked thought the PM had knowingly lied, and 57% wanted him to resign immediately. If that starts to be reflected on the doorsteps and in the inboxes and of Tory MPs, then it will make them think over time. Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for joining me, Maria Eagle.
Thank you.
Who is the MP for Garston and Halewood. Let's now join Professor Lynn Sudbury-Riley, who co-authored a University of Liverpool report into the impact of COVID-related